This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Books, PD products, science, fashion, and glam talk. From Bollywood to Hollywood, it's Meet and Greet with Dr. Afshan Hashmi. Every Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Right here on K4HD Radio and Talk4 TV. And here's your host, international speaker, educator, award-winning entrepreneur, and best-selling author, Dr. Afshan Hashmi.
Hello everyone, this is Dr. Afshan Hashmi live from Ohio studio of K4HD Radio and Talk4 TV. And friends, this is Meet and Greet with Dr. Afshan Hashmi. This program is syndicated worldwide to 300 million listeners. So just imagine if you give me sponsorship, how in such a great way your product will be promoted. And please write to me at afshan@drafshanhashmi.com if you want to give me sponsorship. And also if you have some thoughts about the program or anything, please put in the comment section of this YouTube video. And I want to tell you that these are my two books. The first one, The Modern Mughal Mentality, New Strategies to Succeed in India and the Global Marketplace, was Amazon bestseller as well as hot #1 new release on Amazon. The second one, The Outbreak of a Monstrous Infection, was an Amazon bestseller. With this second book, The Outbreak of a Monstrous Infection, I want a TV series or a movie to be made out of it. So all those Hollywood, Bollywood, Netflix, Amazon, Apple Plus, Roku channel people, please, who make movies and TV serials, if please contact me. And it is a very very interesting book. It was an Amazon bestseller at drafshanhashmi.com. Having said that, friends, today I will do the review of this book. At first I will show you the cover of the book, and here is the cover of the book. Hatchet Man: How Bill Barr Broke the Prosecutor's Code and Corrupted the Justice Department, by Elie Honig. So this is the cover of the book, and let me read now about the author. And the about Elie Honig. Elie Honig is a CNN senior legal analyst who previously worked for 14 years as a federal and state prosecutor. From 2004 to 2012, he was an assistant United States attorney for the Southern District of New York, prosecuting and trying federal cases involving organized crime, human trafficking, public corruption, and violent crime. As an AUSA, Honig successfully prosecuted over 100 members and associates of the mafia, including bosses and other high ranking members, on murder, racketeering, and other charges. From 2012 to 2018, Honing served as deputy director and then director of the New Jersey Division of Criminal Justice, where he supervised a staff of over 500 law enforcement professionals and approximately 1,000 cases per year. In addition to his current work for CNN, Honing hosts podcasts and writes for Cafe, works as executive director of the Rutgers Institute for Secure Communities, and is a special counsel to the law firm Loewen Steele Sandler. Honing graduated from Rutgers College in 1997 and Harvard Law School in 2000. And now I will ask Roxy, my sound engineer, to please play the sponsorship film. Hello everyone, this is Dr. Afshan Hashmi live from a barn country club in Virginia, and I just wanted to say that my K4HD radio and Talk 4 TV show called Meet and Greet with Dr. Afshan Hashmi is syndicated worldwide and has more than 300 million listeners. And if you want these shows to continue, please give a sponsorship, and I request to please give a sponsorship because these shows require a lot of energy and money to produce. So I would request everyone to give me sponsorship, and your product will be promoted in a very reasonable price, and you can contact me at afshan@drafshanhashmi.com. Cheers and bye bye. So this was about the sponsorship film which I made. So friends, if you give me sponsorship, just imagine your product will be promoted to 300 million listeners worldwide in a very very reasonable price, and you can write to me for sponsorship at drafshanhashmi.com. So we today, as I told you, we are going to review this book. Here is the cover of the book, and let me read about the book. National bestseller. Elie Honig has written much more than a compelling takedown of an unfit attorney general. He also offers a blueprint for how impartial and apolitical justice should be administered in America. Preet Bharara, an essential analysis for anyone committed to understanding the abuses of the Trump administration so we can ensure they never happen again. Joyce White Vance, essential reading for all who cherish the rule of law in America. George Conway, written with all the color and pacing of a legal thriller. Variety, CNN senior legal analyst Elie Honig exposes William Barr as the most corrupt attorney general in modern U.S. history, with the stunning new scandals bubbling to the surface even after Barr's departure from office. In Hatchet Man, former federal prosecutor Elie Honig uncovers Barr's unprecedented abuse of power as Attorney General and the lasting structural damage done to the Justice Department. Honig uses his own experience as a prosecutor at DOJ to show how, as America's top law enforcement official, Barr repeatedly violated the department's written rules and those vital unwritten norms and principles that comprise the prosecutor's code. Barr was corrupt from the beginning. His first act as AG was to distort the findings of special counsel Robert Mueller, earning a public rebuke for his dishonesty from Mueller himself and later from a federal judge. Then Barr tried to manipulate the law to squash a whistleblower's complaint about Trump's dealing with Ukraine, the report that eventually led to Trump's first impeachment. Barr later intervened in an unprecedented manner to undermine his own DOJ prosecutors on the cases of Michael Flynn and Roger Stone, both political allies of the president. And then Barr fired the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York under false pretenses. Finally, Barr amplified baseless theories about massive mail in ballot fraud, pouring gasoline on the dumpster fire battle over the 2020 election results and contributing to the January 6 insurrection that led to Trump's second impeachment. In Hatchet Man, Honig proves that Barr trampled the two core virtues that have long defined the department and its mission, credibility and independence, ultimately in service of his own deeply rooted extremist legal and personal beliefs. Honig shows how Barr corrupted the Justice Department and explained what we must do to prevent this from ever happening again. So, this was about the book, and now, friends, I will go on a break and will be back soon.
Would you love exposure for your business, product, or service to over 300 million potential listeners? Send an email to info@talk4media.com. And now let's hear from some of our sponsors.
Chapter 2, How Jugaad leads to multi-sector success stories in India, including definitions of the Jugaad management principle business model of the book The Modern Mughal Mentality, New Strategies to Succeed in India and the Global Marketplace. Inspiration. True Jugaad is an inspiration on how to create products using technology that meet the price-value equation. According to a Harvard Business Review article featuring expert Prahlad and Mashelkar, most innovation programs are built on the assumptions of affluence and abundance. We see the rich and the young in both the developed and the developing countries demanding environmental friendly products and services. They also believe that affordability and sustainability are crucial to driving successful business today. New technologies and radical business models are important not only to penetrate mass markets in India but in the entire world. By reconfiguring all areas of the business structure, they will pull.
A monstrous infection is spreading worldwide. OMG, is this a simple infection or a deliberate attempt to ruin the human population? Or maybe it's bioterrorism. What is this global infection and who is spreading it? Help us find out. Go to Amazon and search for The Outbreak of a Monstrous Infection. The human race needs your help to make this go viral. Go to Amazon.com and read The Outbreak of a Monstrous Infection to find out what happens next. Go now! The world is depending on you.
And now, back to Dr. Afshan Hashmi's radio show.
So, friends, before going further in the program, I want to remind you that these are my two books. Please go and buy these two books and give me an honest review. And these two books were Amazon bestsellers. And this one was the first one, The Modern Mughal Mentality, New Strategies to Succeed in India and the Global Marketplace, was also a hot number one new release on Amazon. And friends, The Outbreak of a Monstrous Infection was also an Amazon bestseller. And I want a movie to be made out of it. So all those Hollywood, Bollywood, Netflix, Apple Plus, Roku, and Amazon producers and directors listening, please contact me at Afshan at drafshanhashmi.com. And I want a TV serial series or a movie to be made out of this book. And it's a very, very interesting and very good book. Having said that, friends, you know that I am reviewing this book and talking about this book. So first I will read little bit from the book. The Prosecutor's Code: Earn Your Stripes. Any prosecutor's first trial is a blur of terror, self doubt, confusion, fleeting moments of competence, worry, a bit more terror, and then ultimately catharsis. The second trial gets a bit easier and things gradually smooth out from there. It's the same basic pattern, the same grind and pressure, but eventually you build up some calluses and learn to calm your nerves and even relish the fight. But the first trial, that's pure uncut panic. So now I will read from the second chapter. And here it is: confirmation. Confirmation. When President Donald Trump first announced in December 2018 that he would nominate William Barr as Attorney General, a lot of people said a lot of things they would later regret. It's easy to forget given that Barr ultimately turned out to be a dishonest partisan opportunist, but in fact, commentators from all quarters initially praised Trump's selection of Barr. Former FBI Director James Comey, no fan of Trump's after infamously being fired by the president in May 2017, put aside aside any hurt feelings and applauded Barr as an institutionalist who cares deeply about the integrity of the Justice Department. Comey would later write a series of New York Times open ads scorching Barr for his performance as attorney journal, including one piece titled "Justice is Supposed to Be Blind. Bill Barr Can't See That." A strong person of principle, commented former Bill Clinton appointed U.S. Attorney Harry Littman on NPR. Littman also wrote an open ad for the Washington Post entitled "Count Me as One Democrat Who Thinks Trump Made an Excellent Choice in William Barr." Littman too later retracted his positive initial take and wrote that Barr had done the opposite of his pledge to protect the independence and reputation of the department, among other pointed public criticisms of the Attorney General. So now let me go and read little bit from third chapter. The prosecutor scored impartiality. "Okay, what did I do wrong?" I asked half jokingly as I picked up the phone. It was an internal phone call from John McEnany, the SDNY's long term in house ethics guru. Most calls from McEnany meant you had neglected to fill out some form, were overdue on some kind of mandatory training, or had done something stupid. Surprisingly, nothing McEnany deadpanned, "But we have to pull you off a case." It was a fairly routine investigation involving low level financial fraud. Turns out one of the potential witnesses in the case, not a subject, not somebody likely to be charged, but merely a witness, had about a decade before been represented by my father's law partner in a civil case. "For real?" I asked. "Yes," McEnany confirmed. I was off the case, recused in the lingo. Truth be told, I had more than enough to do, and this case wasn't at the top of my priority list, so I half heartedly feigned disappointment and accepted McEnany's eminently wise decree. So now I will read from the other chapter, the Mueller investigation. The Mueller investigation. During my career with the SDNY, I prosecuted more than 100 members and associates of the New York City Mafia, some of them powerhouses. Only one was a woman, and Shira Rovano. Shia Rovano was old school, battle hardened, trusted by the leadership of the Genovese family. She was pension director at Local 1181 of the Amalgamated Transit Union, a mob dubbed bus drivers union with more than 10,000 members and millions of dollars flowing annually through its coffers. The union was a gold mine for the mob. The Genovese family embezzled member dues, shook down bus companies, and handed out cushy no show jobs that provided W 2s and insurance coverage to friends and family. Even masters need health and dental. Chiarovano kept the books at the locals' headquarters, but she was no mere pencil pusher. She served as the mob's in house eyes and ears, facilitating various rackets. She also was the only woman permitted to sit at the back corner table at Don Pep, the restaurant in Queens, where the Genovese family boss and his top captain soldiers ate dinner together every Tuesday and Thursday nights. We quickly identified Chiarovano as a key conduit between the mob and the union, so the FBI agents working the case with us paid her a visit to ask her some questions. Chiarovano was a savvy operator. She wasn't about to tell the FBI the whole truth, but she also knew not to spin a web of easily disapproved lies. So she mostly gave truthful answers, mostly, but she also wove in a few carefully calibrated misstatements intended to downplay her relation with Genovese family leadership. She falsely denied that she had tipped off her mafia pals about our investigation, warning them when the union received our federal subpoena, and she claimed that she had met one particularly powerful gangster only a few years before, when in fact they had known each other and had been dating on the side for over a decade. And now, friends, I will go on a break and will be back soon.
Would you love exposure for your business, product, or service to over 300 million potential listeners? Send an email to info@talkformmedia.com. And now let's hear from some of our sponsors.
A monstrous infection is spreading worldwide. Oh my God, is this a simple infection or a deliberate attempt to ruin the human population? Or maybe it's bioterrorism. What is this global infection and who is spreading it? Help us find out. Go to Amazon and search for The Outbreak of a Monstrous Infection. The human race needs your help to make this go viral. Go to Amazon.com and read The Outbreak of a Monstrous Infection to find out what happens next. Go now. The world is depending on you.
The Outbreak of a Monstrous Infection, Chapter 1, 1964 to 2018, and this is the sample track, and it is read by Dr. Afshan Nahid Hashmi. In a sprawling bungalow in Potomac, Maryland, USA, lived Dr. Honey Singh, a board-certified internal medicine and family practice physician, along with his beautiful wife, Baby Singh. Baby Singh was a fashionista and was funding women's causes through her Honey Babe Foundation. She had a ladies' book club by the name of Baby's Glam and Glitzy Club, which had many glam and glitzy ladies who were professionals living in Washington, D.C., Potomac, Maryland, Virginia, and even Beverly Hills, California, as well as elites from all of America meeting at her place on the last Wednesday of every month, discussing various aspects of charities they wanted her and Dr. Honey to fund. In this club, there was a wide spectrum of career women. There were doctors, lawyers, actresses, business owners, and models, to name a few. In these book club meetings, members would come prepared after reading a book of a famous woman author, and that author was even invited from any part of the world to give her presentation, followed by a Q&A in this prestigious and elite gathering. So now, friends, I will give my thoughts and review of this book. And you know, the book we are reviewing is this one. So let me, okay. Let me go to from where I started. Okay. So before reading further, I will give my review of the book, and here I go. I first saw this book while browsing the shelves of Barnes and Noble and felt like I had to buy this book and read it and then review on my show. I like to read history books. I like to see how a time period is viewed, and I like to see everything written in a concise, precise way that I can understand. After reading this book, I feel author is biased. I do not agree with the author. I liked a lot A.G. Barr, and I am a big fan of A.G. Barr. I think A.G. Barr was neutral and did his job in an excellent manner. I give this book 1 star. So this was my review of this book, and now, friends, I will ask Roxy, my sound engineer, to play the second sponsorship film. Hello, viewers around the globe. This is Dr. Afshan Hashmi, live for her radio show at K4HD and Talk 4 TV show. And I just wanted to request you that please give me sponsorship if you want this show to continue. Having said that, friends, I will see you in another episode of K4HD Radio plus Talk for TV show. And if you give me sponsorship, I will give you very reasonable price, and also you will get lot of promotion as this show is syndicated worldwide to more than 300 million listeners. Cheers and bye bye. So, friends, this was the second sponsorship film which I produced and made. And friends, I will request you to give me sponsorship for to do your book reviews, to be in conversation with your company owners, to be do cosmetics and makeup reviews, as well as movie and TV serial reviews. And I have done thousands of reviews. Having said that, friends, if you contact me at afshan at trafshanhashmi.com, I will give you a very, very good price and a very reasonable price. And just imagine, this show is syndicated worldwide to 300 million listeners, and in what a great way your product will be promoted. Having said that, friends, now I will continue to read from the book. The Prosecutor's Court, Take a Shot, and this is the chapter name. Got a minute? Asked Rob Herbster, a savvy young agent assigned to the FBI's Gambino squad. Herbster and I had done a few cases together before, but nothing earth shattering. I waved him into my office. I think we can make a run at Harvey Santos, he said. I was interested. Santos was a knock around guy. He had been around the Gambino family for over 2 decades, and he did whatever the family needed with his fists, a baseball bat, a gun. Of even more interesting, Santos was the longtime driver for Joseph Carozzo, a powerhouse Gambino family consigliere, house counsel to the boss, and under mafia succession rules, third in charge overall. Drivers were always good targets for prosecutors. They overheard key conversations between powerful players, and they sometimes felt underappreciated and disaffected. Part of your job is to wait in a car for the boss to return from his business, sometimes for hours on end. This tends to grate after a while. Santos was particularly vulnerable because, as a non Italian, he could never get made formally inducted into the family. His mafia career prospects were severely limited. So, this was. A little bit from this chapter, and I will read now from another chapter. Ukraine. If William Barr had gotten his way, the world would never have known about the Ukraine scandal. We would never have learned about President Donald Trump's misuse of the country's international might to run a domestic political errand, or about quid pro quos, or about I would like you to do us a favor, though. As Attorney General, Barr abused his position as the nation's top prosecutor to ensure that neither Trump nor any of his associates faced any criminal consequences, and he tried to go even further by distorting the law in an effort to silence a whistleblower. If Barr had gotten his way, Trump might never have been impeached over Ukraine at all. As a prosecutor, you have got to have something to go on, some reasonable factual basis to start an investigation. The technical term for it is prediction. The Attorney General's guidelines for the FBI define prediction as requiring generally allegations, reports, facts, or circumstances indicative of possible criminal or national security threatening activity. The principle is that to start an investigation, you need something, some fact, some reasonable basis, but you don't need much. When the Ukraine scandal hit, the Justice Department had more than enough prediction to open a criminal investigation of Trump and others around him, based solely on the White House transcript of the July 25, 2019 phone call between Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. That transcript alone presented a reasonable basis to investigate potential criminal charges, including bribery, extortion, and solicitation of foreign election aid. Yet Barr ignored the obvious indicators of criminality and declined even to open an investigation. He was so far in the back for Trump that not only did he decline to bring criminal charges, but he refused even to take a look in the first place. So this was little bit from this chapter, and now friends, I will go on a break and will be back soon.
Would you love exposure for your business, product, or service to over 300 million potential listeners? Send an email to info@talkformedia.com. And now let's hear from some of our sponsors.
Chapter 2: How Jugaad Leads to Multi-Sector Success Stories in India, including definitions of the Jugaad Management Principle business model. Of the book The Modern Mughal Mentality, New Strategies to Succeed in India and the Global Marketplace. Inspiration. True Jugaad is an inspiration on how to create products using technology that meet the price-value equation. According to a Harvard Business Review article featuring expert Prahlad and Mashelkar, most innovation programs are built on the assumptions of affluence and abundance. We see the rich and the young in both the developed and the developing countries demanding environmental friendly products and services. They also believe that affordability and sustainability are crucial to driving successful business today. New technologies and radical business models are important not only to penetrate mass markets in India but in the entire world. By reconfiguring all areas of the business structure, they will pull.
A monstrous infection is spreading worldwide. OMG, is this a simple infection or a deliberate attempt to ruin the human population? Or maybe it's bioterrorism. What is this global infection and who is spreading it? Help us find out. Go to Amazon and search for The Outbreak of a Monstrous Infection. The human race needs your help to make this go viral. Go to Amazon.com and read The Outbreak of a Monstrous Infection to find out what happens next. Go now! The world is depending on you.
And now, back to Dr. Afshan Hashmi's radio show.
So we are talking and reading and reviewing this book. So now I will read little bit more from the book. So it is the prosecutor's court podium privilege. And if you do these three things, consider the facts, follow the law, and use your everyday common sense, then I submit at the end of this trial you will return a fair and just verdict, guilty on all counts. Thank you. I exhaled and looked expectantly around the cramped conference room. It was stuffed with prosecutors sitting too deep in mismatched chairs around a chipped seen better days table. Some of my colleagues were looking down, finishing up their note taking, or perhaps as I was about to learn, they simply didn't want to look up at me. I thought I detected some confusion on the faces of others. Keeping with tradition, we started with the most senior prosecutor in the room, my journal crimes unit chief. He began in a half apologetic, half "you need to hear this for your own good manner. I don't know exactly what that was, but it was not an opening. Looking back, I see that he was absolutely right. It was my first ever moot, as we called it, SDNY office. Tradition requires that whenever a prosecutor is about to deliver a jury address, opening, closing, or rebuttal, he first must give it a dry run in front of his colleagues. It's a dress rehearsal, essentially, then American Idol style. Each assembled prosecutor in the audience offers a blunt critique, positives and negatives alike, holding nothing back, but also with a focus on the constructive, the things that need to be different and better. As you might guess, the comments honestly tend to be mostly of the Simon Cowell variety. Moods were nightmarish, nobody enjoyed giving them. It never felt quite right to deliver a jury address standing at the head of a conference table using a box of copier paper as a lantern. The rooms were too small, too crowded, and allowed no space to move around freely as you might do in the well of a courtroom, and the audience, mostly prosecutors plus the occasional paralegal or law enforcement agent or staffer to get some real person perspective, might have a couple hundred years of cumulative prosecutorial experience. Tough crowd. So this was little bit from this, and now I will read from this chapter. Michael Finn. Michael Flynn was talking to the feds until somebody or something convinced him to shut up. Flynn was for a time cooperating with Robert Mueller's team of prosecutors implicating other people in criminal conduct in an effort to save his own hide. But then he changed course and decided to stay quiet. As a result of his change of heart, Flynn put himself at risk. When he stopped cooperating, he exposed himself to the real possibility of a prison sentence. But Bill Barr used his power as Attorney General in an unprecedented manner to try to ensure that Flynn would never spend a day behind bars. Flynn's guilty plea in December 2017 was a seismic opening act for special counsel Robert Mueller. 7 months before, Mueller had been appointed to investigate Russian interference in the 2016 election, and Flynn's conviction was Mueller's first pet. Flynn was a serious player, not some peripheral wannabe, but President Donald Trump's first national security advisor and one of Trump's closest campaign cheerleaders. Flynn had infamously and ironically given his own eventual rap sheet, led chants of lock her up during the 2016 Republican National Convention. Flynn pled guilty right away to Mueller's charges that he had lied to the FBI. The conviction was on the books before the public knew the case was coming. In any federal case, there are two types of guilty pleas. The first is what we at the SDNY would call a straight plea. The defendant admits his crime and in return gets a bit of a haircut on his recommended sentence. It's a straightforward exchange, this for that, and then the parties go their separate ways. The second type of guilty plea is the cooperation deal. This is a more involved, longer term commitment. The defendant pleads guilty typically to a formal charging document called an information, essentially a voluntary indictment to which both sides agree in advance. The deal is the defendant must give up others and must testify as needed. In return, the cooperating defendant gets a sentencing letter, often called a 5K letter, after the sentencing guidelines section that authorizes it from prosecutors, which typically results in a major reduction in the sentence. So this was little bit from this chapter, and now friends, I will sign off from this episode of my radio and TV show Meet and Greet, and I will see you on next Thursday at 6 p.m. US Eastern Time on K4HD Radio and Talk 4 TV, and on Wednesday at 7 p.m. US Eastern Time and Talk 4 TV on W4WN Radio and Talk 4 TV. And please go to my YouTube channel and you will see what the kind of programs I give on my own. And having said that, friends, cheers and bye bye.
You've been listening to Meet and Greet with Dr. Afshan Hashmi on K4HD Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in live right here every Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Would you love exposure to your business, product, or service to over 300 million potential listeners? Send an email to info@talk4media.com. And remember, if you miss any part of this show or want to hear it again, find our featured show on iHeartRadio or YouTube, where all past episodes are available on demand 24/7. See you next Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on K4HD and Talk4 TV.